Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to this, the Thursday edition of Vuka Nazo, your morning news analysis show. My name is Sihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty, your favorite fat boy. Now, guys, if you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that like button and share the stream. Help me grow my audience. And if it is on YouTube where you're watching, then do yourself an even bigger favor. Subscribe to the channel. Help me grow my numbers. Let's reach 50,000 by the end of the year. Guys, please support the work that we do financially. How do you do that? You're probably wondering. Well, anything between 50 to 100 Rand a month that you pledge, and you can find a payment method that suits you at our website. That's bigdaddyliberty.com. bigdaddyliberty.com. Now, enough with the jibber jabber. Let's get straight into the news. Now, in a rare form of solidarity shown by opposition parties in Parliament, including the EFF, that's what makes it rare, MPs, that's members of Parliament in the Health Portfolio Committee, walked out of a particular meeting after the chairperson refused a request for the meeting to be postponed. This, of course, was a meeting talking about the National Health Insurance. Now, let me quickly take a pause here and remind you, the National Health Insurance is the ANC's plan to create an ESCOM of healthcare. And all healthcare provision in this country, whether public or private, will basically be nationalized and brought under this National Health Insurance, which will have a fund, if you will, where any money that you've been spending on your private healthcare by way of a medical aid and the like will be taken, effectively expropriated in a sense, and placed into this fund, and you'll be taxed in addition. All South Africans effectively will be taxed in order to fund this particular fund. That is how the ANC is looking to destroy healthcare in this country, under the name, of course, of improving it and pushing this usual socialist nonsense, this utopia that socialists believe that the state can run everything. Let me read from this Business Day piece that wrote this particular drama up as follows. As I said, MPs received divergent views on the bill from Deputy Chief State Law Advisor, that's one Aisha Johar, who said the bill met constitutional muster, versus the Parliament's legal advisor, Suan Isaac, who said the bill was open to constitutional challenge on several fronts. Now, let me take a pause from reading this article because it's that effective sort of conflicting legal advice, which basically saw opposition parties from the DA, the Freedom Front Plus, and the EFF say, maybe give us a little bit of time to consider this and seek their own advice. However, the chair of the Portfolio Committee, who of course is an ANC member, crooked cadre that they particularly are, basically said no. Let me go back to the piece, citing their reason as saying the following. Now, the acting committee chair, Elvis Siwela, declined their calls to postpone the meeting, prompting Van Staden from the Freedom Front Plus to leave the meeting, followed by Wilson and her DA colleague Michelle Clark, and of course followed soon after by Naneli Chirwa and EFF MP Susan Tembe Guaya. After opposition MPs walked out, ANC members presented their party's position on the input received last week from their legal advisor and law advisors, and they agreed with the position put forward by the state advisor. Of course they will. Of course they will. Saying the bill was rational and in line with the Constitution. End of quote. Yeah, of course those creepy damn crooked cadres and comrades would agree with what the state advisor says, because they want this bill to go forward. If there's anything you've learned from me watching my show, I've said this once and I'll say it again. Hashtag politicians are trash, and they're exactly that. They do not listen to the counsel of us ordinary citizens. They seek to create as much power for themselves and give themselves as many resources as possible, which is exactly what the National Health Insurance will be. It is effectively the expropriation without compensation of your funds and your savings that you devote towards your healthcare because of the failing healthcare system. People need to remember that. We spend as much as we do on private healthcare, not because we want to or that it's good for our health, ironically it being actually good for our health, but because the state, which has made provision of healthcare their responsibility, fails miserably for that. And it's often middle-class people and the richer folks who escape that failure by buying medical aid. The ANC now is seeking to scrap that. Of course, not for themselves. Oh, no, not for politicians. They'll still get the best. But for the rest of us, we'll be consigned to this national health insurance, effectively the ESCOM of healthcare. I would strongly suggest that we as South Africans support opposition MPs in opposing the national health insurance. It is going to be one of the single most destructive policies that the ANC embarks on as it continues this weird slide into a terrible idea of yesteryear of believing the state can run anything and everything in society. Those terrible leftist, socialist, communist ideas that seek to see the ANC destroy value in order to create a utopia that will never materialize. All right, I take you to Durban now, where again, the ugly specter of truck looting is rearing its head. You'll know, of course, that we've covered this issue in detail on previous episodes of Vuka Nazo, where there was that incident in northern KZN of a meat truck being looted and the farmer, distraught farmer and angry farmer coming across that particular scene. You'll remember that also included a Medicine Sans Frontier employee loading up allegedly food or this meat in the back of his bakkie, or to the Western Cape, where a farmer's truck that was carrying live sheep overturned and people proceeding to stop by the highway to steal live sheep. Crazy behavior in this country, where anytime there is a broken down truck by the side of the road, or a truck that slowly has to crawl up a hill, having people then suddenly climb onto it and loot it as it sort of moves, or even, as I said, an overturned truck. It's almost as if it's a dinner bell for these scavenging criminals to come out and begin to loot. It's absolutely appalling behavior, and it must be nipped in the bud. And again, as I said, the recent spate of it now in Durban, where an overturned truck in the Newlands area, sort of Umgeni, actually joining onto the N2, a truck carrying solar panels, basically saw a crowd descend on it to try and loot it. Some looting, of course, did occur. Watch this. Now again, understand this. This is not the only incident just that same week of truck looting in KZN. Let me take you to KwaMashu, or near KwaMashu on the KwaMashu highway, where a truck that was literally heading to donate and send over food parcels, food drums, if you will, for Ramadan, which is a religious period of significance for Muslims, and we're looking to donate this to the poorest of the poor. When that truck broke down, it then was proceeded to be looted by people. Some people, by the way, who are jumping off cars, presumably people who don't need this kind of food parcel, which is meant for the poorest of the poor. That is how depraved these looters and scavengers actually are. Watch this.
Yo, guys, I didn't even see this thing.
Again, I've said this once and I'll say it again. If there is no law and order, if we are not a society governed by the rule of law, then the chaos and anarchy that will define us will destroy South Africa. We are well on that path already, and whether it is crimes like these ones or the more serious violent criminals in this country, we need to have a policing and law enforcement service in this country which is efficient, visible, and effective. You cannot have a functional democracy if you do not get the rule of law and law and order right. I've made suggestions in the past as to how we do this. It begins, of course, by getting rid of, in terms of the political leadership, a asshat of a police minister, and of course, in terms of the management of the South African Police Service, a large number of these deployed cadres by the ANC who are incapable of doing their job. We remove the whole lot, every single one of them, and you start afresh in appointing actually competent, capable, and professional police officials to lead our men and women in blue who are chomping at the bit and keen to do their job. Most of them, at least. That is how you begin to reform policing in this country. Until we do this looting and the descent into anarchy, which, by the way, should hark back to memories of the July riots in KZN last year. Remember that? If we do not stymie and stop the descent into chaos, then July riots will be nothing for what is coming in this country. All right, we stay in Durban, indeed, a community of Wentworth in the south, historically a coloured neighbourhood under the apartheid classification, of course, a community racked and affected by gangsterism and indeed drugs. But this time it was a wild, well, east, because Durban's on the east, as automatic gunfire could have been heard in that community, sending residents and people in the neighbourhood ducking for cover. Now, of course, you heard automatic gunfire going off there. The incident itself actually was a wild, almost action movie type scene where when police heard this particular gunfire, it was rushed to the scene to respond to it, came under a hail of bullets. What is said to have been more than 50 bullets fired at this police vehicle, as the incident, of course, involved 3 vehicles of assailants in it who were making the getaway. Let me read this independent piece that wrote the story up as follows. Now, although details were sketchy, it's alleged that a shooting had taken place on Croton Road in Wentworth on Monday afternoon, and over 50 rounds of ammunition were used. It is further alleged that the police van caught in the crossfire and the vehicle was littered with bullet holes. The public, of course, had been warned to stay away from that particular section of Wentworth. End of quote. But now, here's the thing, people. Human beings live there. How do they stay away from a neighborhood that they live in? Criminals who care nothing for the life, liberty, and property rights of other people. If police are literally coming under fire, I mean, have a look at this particular incident, or this photo of the police vehicle itself, racked in bullets. Some of those bullets, of course, you can see were aimed at the personnel, the police personnel in it. Let me play this quick video of the crime scene investigators, of course, now combing the scene, and look at how many cones they placed, basically marking where the bullet casings fell. Guys, it is a wild east here in Durban. The gunshots that you'll hear as just everyday kind of behavior is absolutely ridiculous. Y'all know I've had a few episodes live of the show where we've had to stop the broadcast because of gunfire close to and around the place where I broadcast. It is very wild. And it's not the guns themselves that are the issue, but the fact that criminals have no one responding to them, meeting fire with fire. We need to empower police in this country to be able to fight fire with fire. So the criminals end up where they should be, which is in a prison cell. That the only way to do that is to reform the police, and I've already given indications on how we do that. But for as long as we have a useless police minister and a inept police management, we'll continue losing to criminals like this who clearly act with impunity. All right, that's it for this, the Thursday edition of Vuka Nazo. Let me know what you think about the show, of course. Make sure you leave a comment in the whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Remember, the links of all the articles that I read are in the descriptor of this video, so make sure you check those out. And if you're watching either on Facebook or YouTube, guys, please hit that like button, and of course, if it is on YouTube in particular, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so that every weekday from 7 a.m. you're notified when the show is on. Guys, find us please at our website at bigdaddyliberty.com. You can engage me and even send some suggestions on what you'd like to see. With that being said, I'll see you tomorrow for what will be the Friday edition of the show. And until then, have yourself a great day.